So, President Trump's meeting with Putin on Friday in Alaska is now being framed by the White House as a listening exercise. Now, this came directly from Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, and is a definitive step back from Trump's earlier claim that Ukraine should be prepared to quote unquote sign a deal to end the war. Now, this shift obviously comes as Trump's team once again are the last people on earth to realize that Russia is not ready to compromise. Putin still demands control over the territories he's annexed while blocking Ukraine's NATO ambitions and demanding Zelensky's government steps down to be replaced by a Russian puppet government. So, with this realization, the White House now seems to expect Putin to hold that line and stay stubborn. But by calling the meeting a chance for them to listen to each other, such flowery language used with war criminals, Trump now avoids the risk of looking weak if no deal happens, which is quite likely. But then, confusingly, in a meeting Trump had with Zelensky and other European leaders this morning, Trump undermined Caroline's statement and said that he actually expects to come away from Putin's meeting with a ceasefire ready to go. So, once again, a bit of a disconnect between Trump's staff and what Trump is actually expecting. Meanwhile, Trump's earlier talks of swapping territories is frankly vague and unrealistic for both Russia and Ukraine, and thus raises serious doubts about Trump's grasp of this war entirely. He even whined in a very weird and grammatically problematic tweet that everyone thinks his meeting with Putin is a bad idea. Well, that's because it is a bad idea. Nonetheless, this is an absolute propaganda victory for Russia, as I've said before. Even if the meeting is canceled, the optics for Russia just look so much better for them than they do for Trump and the United States, and I cannot fathom how Trump cannot see this. Because the minute Putin walks away with no deal or some sort of meaningless understanding after this listening session, it shows Putin strong-armed Trump once again. And as I said, I'm astonished that Trump is not grasping what Putin is actually trying to do here. The rest of the world sees it because President Zelensky and his European allies are rejecting any deal that gives up land, calling it illegal both domestically in Ukraine and internationally. Everyone insists Ukraine must be a part of any talks, warning that any decision made without Kyiv risks repeating old betrayals of smaller nations that we've seen throughout history. Think the Czech Republic given to Germany in World War II, where Trump is Chamberlain here. Interestingly, both Ukrainian and Russian ground commanders believe the talks are meaningless because the Ukrainians are unwilling to give up territory and the Russians believe they can win no matter how long it takes, even if it takes years. And because of that, any fear of a deal that excludes Ukraine are probably overblown here because that assumes a deal is going to be made at all. And as the White House has already alluded to, there likely isn't going to be a deal because neither Putin nor Zelensky are ready, no matter how much Trump likes to tweet or talk about it. The difference is Zelensky's reasons for not making a deal are benevolent, while Putin's reasons are evil. The problem here is, unlike Trump, Putin is actually strategizing for the long term. Putin's recent talks with partners in China and India show that the long game is his focus, and he is going to use this summit to look strong while also showing India and China that the US is not as threatening as they seem to be. Hell, they might actually be accepting of what Putin is doing in Ukraine, because why else invite Putin to visit? This is going to signal that all of Trump's talk about secondary sanctions is just bluster that China and India don't have to worry about, and those countries will believe Putin. They will see Trump continuously backing off sanctions and tariffs like he just did yesterday with China, kicking the can another 90 days down the road, and combine it with Putin's visiting the United States, coming away with photos and handshakes and pats on the back as carte blanche to move as they see fit in supporting Russia, because Trump isn't actually going to follow through on anything, not the tariffs and not the sanctions. But the real concern here is Taiwan, as they have to be worried for at least the next 3 years. China can look at what Trump does and see that he's not serious about defending anything that aligns with American values. He may talk a big game, but actually won't follow through when the country across the table is even slightly more powerful than Iran. And that's problematic for the international order and countries like Taiwan. Honestly, though, the best thing Trump can do at this point is not cancel the meeting because that gives Putin a propaganda victory, but when they sit down, have Zelensky very publicly walk into the room and then watch to see if Putin throws a tantrum and walks out, or if he's forced to sit there through the whole meeting and deal with Zelensky so that he doesn't embarrass himself and Russia by running away. And then, when Putin is sitting there listening to Trump and Zelensky, he will have to hear Trump's demands to conduct a full withdrawal, or he will bear witness to the full might of U.S. control of the global economy and ability to arm a partner. Problem is, we aren't going to see that happen. That's not what's going to happen. We're just going to see more of the same, more bluster, more tweets, and more nothing burgers that help Putin's cause domestically.